Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to attend this webinar of the working group experts sharing their insights about boosting talent through our the talent booster mechanism. I'm Laura Todaro. I've been the facilitators together with many other colleagues of this activity. And I would like immediately to share the flow with Uustal Kadri, head of the unit at REGIO for community and people. Please, Kadri.
Thank you very much, Laura, and also a great good morning to everyone joining us online. I hope you can all hear me. And it's a great pleasure for me to open today's webinar and to welcome such a wide and committed audience to this important discussion. Today's webinar marks an important milestone, the conclusion of 2.5 years of collaboration within the working groups of the Talent Booster mechanism. Over this period, 80 experts from 21 EU countries have worked together to address one of the most pressing challenges facing European regions today: demographic change and its implications for talent and regional development. Today, it is the moment to share the end results of a process that mobilized working group experts and various other partner organizations. I take the opportunity to warmly thank here, to start with, all those that have been involved in the incubation process, starting by the working group members that replied to Commission's call to help enhancing collective knowledge on successful strategies to harness talent in EU's regions, and offered their time and endless efforts to produce the outputs that will be presented to all of you today. It is indeed important to highlight that this work has been built on the voluntary engagement of a wide community of stakeholders involved in the working groups, including policymakers and practitioners from different levels of administration, researchers, civil society organizations, and businesses. By bringing together these diverse perspectives, the working groups created a space for meaningful exchange and collective problem solving. The diversity of expertise involved has been one of the greatest strengths of this process. It has ensured that discussions were grounded in real regional experience and that the solutions developed reflect the practical realities faced by regions across Europe. When the Commission presented the communication Harnessing Talent in Europe's Regions in 2023, it highlighted that the key principle, responding to demographic change, and especially the challenge of attracting, retaining, and developing talent, requires strong collaboration across sectors and governance levels. And from that perspective, as you will see, the task accomplished within the working groups demonstrates the value and potential of such forms of collaboration. Through cooperation and knowledge exchange, working group members have contributed to collectively produce a meaningful set of outputs designed to support regional authorities in strengthening their talent ecosystems and grounded on real-life experience. These outputs are indeed worth considering and widely disseminating. Not only because of the diversity in their forms, we have here policy recommendations, toolkits, analytical tools, collections of good practices, but also because they tackle a wide range of policy areas, from health to knowledge valorization, social inclusion to SME support or essential services and quality of life, captured in outputs complementing each other in a holistic and integrated frame that makes the basis to any meaningful strategy to attract and retain talent in a given place. These outputs have not been built in isolation somewhere behind closed doors. Working groups have interacted with and consulted representatives from many relevant partners and/or EU initiatives. For example, the Pact for Skills, Rural Pact, S.Con, the European Regions Research and Innovation Network, Action for Health and Equity Addressing Medical Deserts, to name just a few, as well as other Commission services in addition to DG REGIO to optimize synergies with existing knowledge and or support platforms. This also very much contributed to increase their value, so warm thanks to all of those who accepted to share their expertise to help enriching contents and information sources. And most of all, the outputs have been designed for and by practitioners, your peers in EU member states and regions, in these different fields of expertise. So not as theoretical reflections, but as practical guidance that can help moving forward with solutions that help to address the multiple challenges linked to demographic change. We all know that EU demographic trajectories of aging, shrinking workforce, and depopulation in most vulnerable remote or rural areas cannot be solved in a day, and they require regions to further adapt. This is the reason that there is also a renewed commitment from the Commission to help regions with these transitions, notably with the emerging priority on the right to stay, which is firmly anchored in Commission's proposals on the next multi-annual financial framework proposals. Working group members have wisely measured the potential of these new orientations, closely connecting their work with the broader framework of EU policies as these are evolving, notably the future cohesion policy and its contribution to EU's sustainable prosperity and the right to stay. By linking European policy priorities with practical regional experience, the work of the working groups helps translate strategic objectives into concrete solutions that can support sustainable and balanced development across Europe's regions. So thank you very much again, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring webinar.
Thank you, Kadri. Thank you very much. I will quickly mention now a bit, and then I think I will walk you through a bit what has been contextualized in the work of the working group, and then I will pass the floor to the authors of these outputs and deliverable, organize these through the three main aspects that we have, themes that we have considered throughout our journey, in particular innovation, skills, and in quality of life. Then we'll hear some of your questions from the wider audience that all of those have joined us today, and to then conclude with some final remarks from DG REGIO side. I would like to one more time emphasize, as Kadri was saying, that this working group activity is characterized by diversity of profiles that contributed to the work. We established under the talent booster mechanism for working group with the focus on digital health, research and innovation, and a more cross-sectional one related to the territorial dimension of the topic we were discussing indeed, which is grow, retain, and develop and attract talent. The group were formed out of 80 experts selected throughout 22 European countries, and belongs to several typology of organizations, policymaker, research and academic institutions, together with also industry association, and therefore we will say that we have also listened to the private sectors. I think the journey, we come a bit from a long way, let's say. 2.5 years of collaboration. The type of output that were produced somehow covers the policy cycle. So we started from, we have some paper that relates to more high-level strategic type of recommendation, to then offer practical solution based into guidance and toolkits. And of course, we have gathered several good practices that are inspirational and can guide the work of other regions. As we said, we start in July 2023 by making a call for interest and to identify and select the working group members. We then move into identifying the issue and the main problem driver that drive our work, and this resulted in the publication of the issue paper. Of course, throughout this period, we have met several times in person and in line. In February 2025, we designed the path forward for roadmaps that inspire our work in terms of also identifying the type of outputs and solution that we wanted to offer. And here today, in March 2026, we are here to share with you the results of the work done. I would like to highlight that the work of the working group has contributed to the quite an important theme that is the right to stay, which is this reflection about the possibility of generating conditions for a European citizen and to build a fulfilling life in the regions they belong to. And somehow the work we have developed is indeed at the intersection, the three main topics that we have identified works at the intersection altogether to promote this idea of the right to stay. First and foremost, of course, we have reflected upon the fact that innovation and digitalization for talent development really, I think, we really think that needs to have develop skills, and in this sense, for three output were developed, especially the self-assessment tool to evaluate regional readiness to attract, retain, and develop talent. Another output is very much targeting SMEs to understand the challenges that they face into develop talent indeed, and it's a practical guide for this. And then again, a toolkit on knowledge valorization at the regional level. Of course, a competitive system, a competitive innovation system needs indeed skills, and therefore we have reflect on how and it is necessary to build skills for the future of regions. And for this purpose, a group of colleagues have developed this recommendation paper on assessing skill needs and addressing skills development through a place-based approach. Aware of the fact that, of course, to develop skills, there is need of solid infrastructure and essential services, we have reflected upon the idea that to the precondition to develop also an appealing context for talent to grow and to grow and prosper, it's necessary also to develop a system of inclusion and well-being and develop essential services to enhance quality of life. And therefore, three of our outputs I've reflected on what are the preconditions to develop these essential services, with also looking to assessing how society can be more inclusive, to the toolkit for implementing gender equality, multiculturalism, and diversity, to then finally also reflect on the type of preconditions that are needed for the health sector to prosper, including the type of skills that are needed. So, as you can see for the graph, is quite of a systemic approach we have developed and reflected upon, where some elements cannot, I think, be developed without the other one. By having this systemic approach, I think now we could, I hope that you have received a good context. I would like to then pass the floor to the colleagues that will give you a deeper and a deep dive into the various output. Prior to that, just a small housekeeping element, which is basically to submit your question, you can use WooClap here. You will have it on the screen all the time, so you can use the QR code there, or going into the website of WooClap. So your question will be gathered and then answered at the end of the presentation of the outputs. With this in mind, Fanis, I will pass the floor to you for getting into the detail of the 7 outputs that we have produced, plus the good practice catalog 8. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Laura, and again, welcome to everybody also from my side. WooClap will be used throughout the day, so please make sure that you connect to it. I'll just put it for a few more seconds to allow it to you, because if you want to ask questions for the final Q&A session, it will have to take place via this tool. So please connect to it, and you will be able to ask your questions throughout all the presentations of today. Okay, so I'll just give 2-3 more seconds for the ones that did not manage to connect, and we will pass to the presentation of the outputs for the day. So in the first part of the presentation, we'll see how regional transformation can be driven through innovation and digitalization for talent development. Here we have one output that will be presented, which is the self-assessment tool to evaluate regional readiness to attract, retain, and develop talent. And we have together with us today Miriam Lanzetta from Lascò, which I was and is still, of course, participant of the digital working group. And we have also Francisco Pinto from the regional government of Azores, from the research and innovation working group. The tool that was developed by the working groups enables the regions to reflect on their preparedness to attract, develop, and retain talent. You will see that it is a tool that allows regions to really go in deep, self-reflect on how this issue is covered in their own regions, what lacks, what is well developed already, and it helps really the regions identify the strengths and gaps across innovation, skills, governance, and services, and supporting more targeted evidence-based policy design. So instead of going and doing several actions to retain talent without a real plan, this tool allows to regions to really gather from their internal departments all the elements that allow them to go and plan future actions on a more evidence-based plan. You have, as always, you see at the bottom right of the screen the code to WooClap, so you can always connect via wooclap.com and put the code there. You will see it throughout the presentations. So without further ado, I'll pass the floor to first Miriam. Miriam, can you please tell us which are the most common barriers for regional digital readiness? What have you learned and what have you seen from your colleagues, and what you know also from your own practice on this part of today's discussion?
Thank you very much, Fanis, and good morning, everyone. Thank you also for this great snapshots, I think, of the outputs and also the self-assessment for scope. To get to your question, I would draw first from the results of the work at the digital working group, especially the issue papers. I think they confirm that regions are usually held back by multiple barriers that are interconnected, often reinforce each other, and together they shape whether a region can attract, develop, retain, and nurture digital talent. This is why maybe before getting to the most common barriers, I think we need to wear a system lens now, and this is also the logic behind the self-assessment tool we developed. We structure it around the most recurring barriers from the issue papers of a working group and considered the way they reinforce each other. So from this system lens, maybe we can walk through the main barriers. And first, I would start from the foundation, digital infrastructure and connectivity. Even though we know connectivity has improved across Europe, many regions still face struggles and challenges related to uneven access to high quality broadband, particularly in remote and rural areas. And this means practically that a small business cannot adopt digital solutions, for example, with confidence, or that a professional who could work remotely decides to live somewhere else. Or even from the student side, that they cannot follow online training properly. And this is somewhat interlinked to some extent, of course, with the second most recurring barriers. This is also the core of our conversation today: skills. We know that in line with the global digital talent crisis, these skills people have across several regions and do not match actually the demand from employers' side. So what can we do to also drawing from the lessons learned of this over 2-year journey, and the exchange also with the relevant stakeholders, different stakeholders, including regional authorities within and outside our group. I think the key takeaway is the need for digital skill ecosystem. Digital skill ecosystem that connects schools, universities, training providers across different education and training fields, public authorities, and employers. The reason for it, and also recently, actually, the World Economic Forum reminded us of the need for it, for the collective responsibility we share over digital skill, upskilling, reskilling, and skilling in general. It would be very convenient just to rely on workers on will to upskill. But there's more. There's the need for more, even though because surprisingly, workers are increasingly more willing to upskill and actually to develop new skills. But this pays a barrier. This pays a significant barrier in access, because if we just think about how employees from small businesses, for example, have significantly, not only from small businesses, but let's say also from slow moving industries, those that are less digital intense, they have way fewer opportunities to upskill and reskill and to access the opportunities to develop the skills needed by the labor market. But basically, what does it mean for regions? What can we do about it? If we think about the collaborations with the ecosystem actors, all those stakeholders that we were thinking before, we were mentioning that the employers, other public authorities, and universities, schools, training providers. First, we need to look at the people who can transfer, who can support digital up and reskilling. So teachers and trainers. This is also one of the main takeaway from the issue paper of the digital working group on working on the education and training skills systems. Teachers and trainers need regular support to keep their own digital skills up to date, so that they can teach skills that are actually relevant in today's workplaces. Second, adults already in the labor market need some flexible opportunities to reskill and upskill, especially in areas like, of course, AI, cybersecurity, data, but also AI operations. And these programs need to be fit around both work and family life, so that people can actually use them. And young people, education systems need to prepare young people for a labor market in which digital skills are absolutely mandatory. So skills, we talk about infrastructure, connectivity. I think another important matter based on also one of the key dimensions that we included in the self-assessment tool exactly for this reason, is digital public services. We have to think at some of the challenges but businesses people face when accessing digital public services. If registering a business is slow, or if online public services are confusing, or if citizens still have to repeat the same information, the same message across different offices, that sends actually a message that this place complicates things that could be simple things, no? So simple things become difficult. And this is absolutely a contributing factor that might be linked also to the skills of digital public servants, but also to the skills of people who need solutions that are centered around their needs. And finally, of course, this gets to the last, the transversal recurring barrier, digital inclusion. For digital transformation to be successful, we need everyone to participate in it. And we're thinking about people with lower educational attainment, or people living in disadvantaged areas. We talked about rural and remote areas, but all actually the individuals who face barriers to accessing digital technologies. These inequalities limit, of course, social inclusion, but they also put actually a limit to the overall talent potential that the region can mobilize. So these are the issues, the main issues that we reflected in the self-assessment tool, so the most common barriers. And we're asking regional authorities to reflect upon them, and also to how actually they reinforce each other. And with the canvas, there is also a set of canvases actually at the end of the tool to support the translation of these insights into an action plan, into a strategy. Because of course, ultimately, all this work has value if it truly helps a region foster places where people can build their skill, they can find opportunities, and are given the conditions to choose to stay. So thank you. Thank you very much, Fanis and everyone.
Thanks a lot, Miriam. So, Francisco, we heard, of course, the challenges. Now, how can the self-assessment tool itself be used by the regions to identify and address digital innovation gaps in order to ensure better talent attraction and retention? Please try to stick to 5 minutes to make sure that everybody has enough time to present their own tools. But yeah, tell us how we can use the tool throughout the regions of Europe.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to share some insights regarding the self-assessment tool. Well, I do believe that this tool can be extremely powerful for regions that want to define where they stand in digitalization and innovation, identifying gaps, and understanding how they affect their ability to attract and retain talent. Saying this, I will give you just about 6 examples of how this can be, in fact, implemented. Well, I believe the tool can help regions to essentially understand their digital and innovation and maturity gaps, to benchmark against other regions, to help regions design evidence-based policies, engage stakeholder and talent-driven strategies, strengthen their reputation for promoting innovation, and build targeted strategies to attract and retain talent. I'll just have a quick run over these 6 topics. Well, for the maturity and gaps, the assessment helps stakeholders have a clear, fact-based understanding with data-driven insights of the region's strengths, weaknesses, and gaps in several aspects, like, for instance, digital infrastructure, skills and training, digitalization of public services, innovation ecosystem, maturity and enablers, skills development and availability, business environment and entrepreneurial culture, upskilling and career opportunities, support for internationalization, and of course, knowledge sharing and transfer. For the benchmarking, and being fast to keep on the 5 minutes track, prior benchmarking reveals whether gaps are structural, emerging, accelerating, or decreasing. And they can, and this benchmark can inspire the region to adapt and apply tools, best practices, and policies from other higher performing areas. Using the assessment results, regions can track their development along time, and they can compare themselves with other similar regions, with national averages, or with even leading innovation hubs. For the policy design, which is very important, I believe, the self-assessment provides an evidence-based baseline to support policymaking and can track progress and assess the effectiveness of the policies. Once gaps are clearly identified, regions can design targeted policies, for instance, for improving digital public services, or investing in skills development programs, or strengthening collaboration between university and industry, or creating innovation districts and for instance, startup incubators. Regarding the engagement of stakeholders, engaging the stakeholder can strengthen the development and results of the talent attraction and attention and retention strategies. Involving multiple actors in the assessment process can stimulate policy, private dialogue and partnerships, joint planning between education providers and the industry, which is very important, and can help create a collective vision for improving talent harnessing for the region. For the reputation, which is also quite important, especially for more regions are more out of the main contents. The results can be used to increase visibility and credibility for talents. Actions that can boost trust among stakeholders and motivating them to actively participate in strategies for talent harnessing that can be supported by the assessment results are things like communicating strengths transparently, or showing commitment to improvement, or promoting progress and innovation, which overall will increase the reputation of the region to attract those talents. And for the targeted strategy building, I believe that the outputs from the self-assessment can feed talent attraction and retention strategies and help design initiatives such as for talent attraction, things like marketing campaigns, highlighting strengths for the region, incentives for digital and knowledge-based companies, targeted offers to promote workers, or support for talented newcomers that arrive on our regions. And then for retention, I would select something like lifelong learning and reskilling programs, better infrastructure and services, both digital and research, and the creation of innovation hubs that create high quality jobs, which will attract, of course, the talents to the regions, and a stronger interaction between research centers and the industry, which is also a very important fact if you want to, in fact, bring and keep the talents on our regions. Finally, okay, I'm on time. And in relation with other outputs of the project, I'm certain that the results from the self-assessment will help policymakers and other stakeholders to choose and decide about the implementation of tools from our toolkits, of best practices from the catalogs, or of actions from the recommendation papers. And also, they'll help them to create targeted policies and actions to harness talent and promote innovation and entrepreneurship in the region. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Francisco, and thanks for sticking to the time. So we heard actually that one of the challenges, the difficulties that small businesses have to adopt digital solutions, and this is exactly what the next output is trying to solve. So the next output is called "Overcoming SMEs Challenges in Regions in the Talent Development Trap: A Practical Guide." It is really a tool that provides a lot of practical solutions that can be used by SMEs in order to strengthen their competitiveness, be more present online, use the new tools, improve their innovation capacity as well, access to market, and really how they can harness all the possibilities that are given by digital solutions currently, without necessarily having to spend a lot or any money in some cases in order to adopt such solutions. So it is a very practical tool. And someone could wonder, why do we really focus on SMEs? Why such a tool? It's simply because by strengthening SMEs, of course, you strengthen the regional possibility of attracting talent, and you make the regions more resilient. So, Jakob, let us know how this tool, how this guide is providing all those practical aspects that help the SMEs and also, of course, the regions. So, how can SMEs benefit most from the digital transformation in support of talent development through this guide?
Yeah, thank you so much, Fanis, for the question. But before
Of course, 5 minutes for you too. Thanks a lot.
I'll do my best. Yeah, but before I answer your question, I would also like to acknowledge the colleagues from the Digital Working Group who contributed to this development of the practical guide. In particular, I would like to thank Tanya, Linda, Mario, Gaetano, and Robert. I see you in the call. And of course, also DG REGIO for the excellent feedback along the way. So this guide is very much the result of a collaborative effort. But to go back to your question, Fanis, and thank you for giving me the word. The practical guide that we have developed in the Digital Working Group was created with a very concrete objective. As you mentioned, we want to help the SMEs in the regions facing the talent development challenges to make better use of digital transformation opportunities. So there are, of course, a lot of opportunities, a lot of programs out there. So across many European regions, particularly those described as being in a talent development track, the SMEs face kind of a double challenge, you could say. On the one hand, they need to adopt digital technologies in order to remain competitive. And on the other hand, they struggle to attract, retain, and develop these digital skills that are needed to make that transformation happen. At the same time, as we talked about, Europe actually offers a wide range of funding programs and support mechanisms that are designed to address exactly those issues that the SMEs face. But the problem is often that the absence of support, or it's not the absence of support, but it's rather that the SMEs find it, I would say, difficult to navigate a complex landscape like this. So you could say that the ecosystem is very fragmented. Programs are spread across different policy areas, and smaller firms, they often lack the time and resources to identify the opportunities that might be relevant to them. And this is exactly where we believe that the practical guide come in. The guide essentially tries to translate the European funding and support landscape into something that the SMEs and regional actors can actually use. But the guide does not start from EU programs themselves. So we have designed a guide that starts from the challenges that the SMEs actually experience when trying to digitalize and develop talent. So across many regions, SMEs, they tend to face a similar set of barriers. For example, you could say that they struggle on shortages of digital skills and talent. They often lack the capacity to identify and apply for EU funding. And that is, we talked about SMEs, but in the paper itself, we also talk about micro companies, that's even smaller companies. So they also face some specific challenge in this field. And they face difficulties on adopting advanced technologies. And they might be weakly connected to innovation ecosystems, universities, and research institutions due to their limited capacity. So therefore, the guide takes these challenges and the starting point, and they map the relevant EU funding instrument that can help address those challenges. This includes programs such as, and you might feel that some of these names are familiar, Digital Europe, Horizon Europe, European Regional Development Fund, and the Recovery and Resilience Facility. But instead of just presenting these programs in isolation, the guide links them directly to the practical needs that the SMEs are trying to address. So in this way, the tool could translate a complex policy landscape into a practical pathway. And there are three pathways that in particular emerged from this work. The first patchwork is strengthening digital skills and talent development through collaboration. So digital transformation requires, we talked about it, new competencies, but most SMEs do not have the capacity to organize large-scale training initiatives. And what would work much better is when training efforts are organized in the ecosystem level that brings together industry, education providers, and public actors. A good example of this, and we've mentioned this earlier in the presentation, Laura mentioned it earlier in the presentation, there's also been conducted a good practice catalog that I know that we will also return to later. But there is a good practice in this catalog that I will especially refer to in this pathway, so to say. And that is the European Battery Alliance Academy. So that was an initiative that was created to address a very concrete challenge, that Europe needed a large-scale workforce to support the rapidly growing battery industry. So rather than leaving individual companies to solve this problem alone, the Academy coordinate training programs across Europe, connect the industry needs with education providers to mobilize European funding to support the workforce development. So that's a really good example of such a pathway. So the key lesson for SMEs is that talent development becomes much more feasible when it is organized collectively in the regional at a sectoral level. And the second pathway that emerges from this paper is the access to technology and expertise through innovation intermediaries. And many SMEs want to adopt these technologies, such as AI, artificial intelligence, and advanced manufacturing, or basically just any data-driven solution. But they often lack the technical expertise or resources to begin that journey. And another initiative that I will refer to in the good practice catalog here would be the European Digital Innovation Hub, or EDIH, and that plays a crucial role in this effort. So digital innovation hubs are one-stop shops for digital transformation. They provide services such as testing new technologies before investing, training programs, advisory services, and support to access EU funding. For SMEs in regions with very limited innovation capacities, this can be transformative. Instead of having to develop digital expertise internally from the start, companies can experiment with technologies, they can receive expert guidance and build partnerships through these hubs. And the third pathway here is strengthening regional innovation ecosystems. So digital transformation rarely happens in isolation. We know that from the ecosystem approach. SMEs benefit greatly when they are embedded into ecosystems that include universities, research organizations, startups, investors, and public authorities. And EU funding instruments such as regional development funds or cluster initiatives can support this development of these ecosystems. But yet, again, the key factor is coordination at a regional level. So that is really crucial here. And regions that successfully overcome this talent development challenge tend to do three things very well. They connect different funding instruments, they build partnerships across sectors, and they create platforms where SMEs can easily access knowledge, training, and technology expertise. So I would say that the overall message from the guide is that digital transformation and talent development simply has to be addressed together. Digital technologies create a demand for new skills. At the same time, a stronger talent ecosystem make it easier for companies to adopt those technologies. So when these two dynamics, they reinforce each other, regions can move from a talent development trap into a virtuous cycle of innovation, skills, and economic growth. So I would like to conclude with one final observation from the work here, and that is that as mentioned very early in the beginning of my answer here, is that Europe already has many excellent programs and initiatives that support the SME innovation and skills development. But the challenge is not the absence of these tools. It is rather making them visible, accessible, and usable for the SMEs on the ground. And this is where the practical guides contributes to do exactly that, by connecting the challenges to what the SMEs actually face with the funding opportunities, the partnerships, the support mechanism that can actually help them succeed in the digital transformation. And if we succeed, I believe if we succeed in doing that, SMEs will not only benefit from digital transformation, they will also move on to become key drivers of talent development and regional resilience all across Europe.
Thanks a lot, Jakob. Really, thanks a lot. We are looking at your questions, of course, and we are gathering them to answer as many of them as possible towards the end of the session. One question that I see is why the presentation is not moving. We have no more slides than one slide per output. because we want you to go, as of next week, visit the Harnessing Talent platform and actually see the outputs themselves and start using them. So we do not have slides presenting the outputs in more detail, because I think that the whole purpose of the work that has been done during the whole years, these few years, is for you to go and actually use the tools. So there is only one slide actually per output. I see Eleonora is here. Eleonora is here actually a toolkit on knowledge valorization at the regional level that has been prepared by the Research and Innovation Working Group. Knowledge valorization, in very simple words, for the people that might not be aware, is basically how you transform research and innovation into economic and societal value. So taking what people study in the universities or in innovation clusters or anywhere, all the research that is being done around Europe, but really transforming it from just research, if I might say, to real societal and economic value for the regions, right? So the tool, quite sure that Eleonora, you can present it much better than me, but it highlights governance models, skills for valorization of the research and knowledge that is being produced, collaboration mechanisms, as well as incentives for the regions. And basically, we all understand that, of course, the valorization of all the research that is being done across Europe is extremely important for fostering innovation, right? So what are the key steps that the region can take to make this happen? Eleonora.
Hello, Fanis, and hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. So actually, we started from the sum that research and innovation are only successful if they leave the labs. So if we can make them in real life, right? So the knowledge valorization is a region's most powerful tool, actually, for managing its human capital. And why? Because it insists on the different level of human capital, the attraction part, because obviously skilled individuals are drawn, obviously, to regions that are offering them meaningful opportunities and high qualified job, right? So, and insists also on the retention part, because regions, by fostering partnership and ongoing learning, they ensure also the right to stay, making the area more attractive for skilled workers to build their life in the region, right? And the employability part, because when universities align their curricula with the real world industry needs, in that case, they produce graduates who are, let's say, better prepared for the workforce and can adapt really quick to the local economy and the changing economies, right? But coming back to the let's say the 3 key steps that we identified in the with all the people working, the expert working together with me in this toolkit. Actually, you mentioned them: collaboration, skills, and incentives. But when we talk about collaboration, what are we talking about? Actually, we are talking about the fact that regions should work on mission-oriented innovation. So it's not working on anything and everything, but trying to set clear and challenge-driven goals, like digital health, climate resilience, whatever, okay, to coordinate efforts across different fields and government levels. But also, the other part is to work using a triple helix model or quadruple better. But let's start from the triple, right? So encouraging the relationship between universities, industries, and government means that university produce the knowledge, industries commercializes it, and government provides the supportive framework. So, but if you're able also to add
the citizen engagement, let's say that the region will become better and better because citizen science, use citizen science to involve the public in research can provide policymakers with more valuable local insights and can strengthen, obviously, the public trust in new technologies, in new approaches in general. When we talk about skills, so the second point, we should take it into consideration not just the S3, so the smart specialization, let's say, thing that we have in all our region, okay? So tailoring education, and training, and but also talking about, we should talk about intergenerational learning, but seeing it in reverse mentoring. So younger employees should share digital insights and with senior leadership and use the service learning to connect students with the real world community issues. Also, when we talk about skill, we should consider for every region to work also on the entrepreneurship level. So integrate the learning by doing and problem-based learning into higher education to transform students into active agents of change. So it's not just opening in a startup, but it's being the change, being an agent of change. And in the end, the third key step is to try and come up with some strategic incentives. Where we are not just talking about, for example, smart tax 6 systems, where you can offer tax credits or R&D deductions, for example, to lower the financial barriers for innovative companies that can come and open like a site in your region. But we are also talking about simplified administration, for example, where having a one-stop shop, so a unique place for administrative tasks to help entrepreneurs and also talents to navigate regulation and support social integration of expat talent could be really a key changing asset. And in the end, strengthening the culture of resilience. So trying to do like networking and moment where you can like teach or train people in overcoming the stigma of the business failure. We saw that in so many good practices that you can see in the catalog and also in some boxes in the knowledge toolkit. So in the end, the very final, let's say, takeaway from the toolkit is that there is no one size fits all solution, right? So, but using the different tools that we came up with, so the toolkit, the best practices, the assessment tool, etc., for sure, we know that we can the different regions in Italy, in Europe, not just the most also the most advanced one, can find some solution and some suggestion and some hints that can help them in harnessing talent. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot again for being on time. So we had actually in all the previous speakers, talent came up several times. So let's see how we can empower talent. We are going to see in the next outputs how we can help really build the skills for the future of the regions. We have today with us Paola Fantini from the University of Naples, right? Hi Paola. The first, the output that you're going to present is the recommendation paper on assessing skill needs and addressing skills development in place-based innovation strategies. So, of course, skills assessment, skill needs assessment, and skills development is what region need in order to make sure that that they can promote participatory skills development ecosystems and environment in their regions. Because of course, without skills, not much can happen, and no talent can be retained in the regions. So, which challenges actually do you see with regards to the assessment of skills needs at regional level? Sometimes it's not something that's taking place at all, or in a very organized way. So, what are the big challenges that you see? If you can still stick to 4 minutes for this question, because I have another one for you. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Fanis, and good morning, everybody. I also would like to acknowledge, because Piotr Sadowski should have been here in this session, but unfortunately cannot. So he represents the territorial working group, so which is the second, let's say, engine of this paper that we came up with, a recommendation paper together with the working group on innovation and research. So yes, thank you for your question. And yes, indeed, when we talk about assessing skills needs at regional level, we are talking about how region can better connect innovation, people, and local opportunities. So it's very important. And there are several challenges that have been highlighted in the paper, but I would mostly highlight two that for me are the utmost important. Which are, first of all, the fragmented governance, meaning that often these exercises about the skills, understanding the skills needs, are made independently by the different actors, like universities, VET, Chamber of Commerce, at local level, trade unions, civil society. And the institution, the regional institution, not always have the opportunity to, or the resources, financial and human, and the capability to coordinate and harmonize everything, and especially to carry out skills foresight exercises. So this is for me the first challenge. Second one, which is also very, very relevant, is the narrative gap. And this, when we usually stick, unfortunately, on labels that are a little bit derogative, and especially focus on what is missing rather than what is there. So when we are talking about regions that are lagging behind, or low-skilled people, we focus on on deficit. So it's what is called deficit thinking. And this lead to reactive ways of doing, desire to catch up rather than creative, positive narrative. So the question is how regions can move from this fragmentation, deficit thinking, to build this agile and inclusive skills ecosystems that should be able to do this exercise of understanding and anticipating skills needs. And I think that one of the most important things is to co-create a shared vision for the region, meaning a positive narrative rooted in the place, and highlighting and considering strengths, considering opportunities, and the mission of the region, and this together with all the actors, helping in attracting and engaging the actors in the communities. So this is the first thing, but the second one is ensuring collaboration and inclusiveness. So here we are considering the region as a whole, so not only that what we call the talents, but every individual that live in the region or that could reach this region and help in producing value at common wealth and well-being. for the community. So this implies in ensuring also collaboration and recognize the diverse type. Well, I do not repeat what my colleagues already talked for a lot about the collaboration, about the different actors. But of course, is what is important and maybe was not highlighted in the previous talks is about the recognition of the diverse types of talent. So in this document, we really strengthen this concept that allows the region to really leverage on what they have and help everyone to feel a part of the community and to express and develop the skills and the commitment, the engagement, everything that they can do. So in the end, this assessing the skills needs is not a technical exercise. Is more about building this collaboration, is about recognizing the local talent, and especially creating and sharing this vision, so creating a shared vision for the future of the region. I don't know. I hope
No,
I have
thanks a lot.
answered.
You did. So, what is then the best approach for anticipating future skills? That's at the regional level. That's an interesting one, I think.
Okay, yes, thank you. And again, well, I would say there are the beauty of what we have studied and analyzed and shared in these 2 years and a half is that there is not only one approach. There are a lot of good practices that we have collected in the catalog that was mentioned by the previous speakers. So I think that this I cannot answer with one approach. What I would like to do is rather to pick up three practices that I find meaningful, and I will not tell the audience what they are exactly, because they can still go and look them up in the catalog. But just to highlight what they bring that I think is interesting. So the first one is LCamp. This is European. Is about a European network that was led by a Basque VET actor, and they built a job and skills observatory, and which they conjugated with lifelong learning. So what I find here interesting here is a strategic partnership. So the partnership, we talk a lot about created connection within the regions, but sometimes sectorally thinking, it's also helpful to share information and knowledge across the region on the same topic. And also I think this lifelong learning is very much important with all the trends that Kadri explained, introduced in the first speech. So aging population, and shrinking labor force. So lifelong learning is very, very important. And this way of putting together knowledge sharing across Europe, Skills and Jobs Observatory with local lifelong learning, I think it's quite worthwhile in looking at. The second example that I would like to mention is from Ireland, is iForm. This is very much focused on advanced manufacturing and or research. So it's a network of universities. So you might think that it's not really what is needed for a regional development as such, but they managed to create a very strong collaboration with the industry, and they influenced, so this research and innovation together with the industry influenced the skills that they were needed and developed together, and the skills and the research made an impact in the sense that drove some of the companies to strengthen and increase the investment in research in Ireland. So I think this is a very good example of a virtuous circle in which, starting from whatever point you start from, you drive a positive effect that in the end result in attracting more talents, developing skills, creating new research, and therefore more economy, and this is the cycle, and the skills need are automatically satisfied if not anticipated. Third and last one that I want to mention is a very small budget example, which I find interesting. Is Pathways to Innovation Entrepreneurship. It was an initiative led by the University of Naples, with whom I'm collaborating, and together with a University of Cornell Tech in United States. And here, what I found really interesting is that through identifying a mission in a region that is in the south of Italy. So it's not one of the regions that you might think had in terms of research and innovation, but focusing on the skills. There was this development of a set of people, practitioners and PhD students that developed the skills to address directly the mission, and therefore then is even before identifying the skills needs is automatically and together in a transdisciplinary way with a strong international partnership working to solve the mission. So these, I think, are just three theses for the audience also to go and look up on this in this catalog and in the recommendation paper, because there is much more of the knowledge that was brought about all the experts in there.
Thanks a lot. Again, of course, the catalog will be available next week with all the other outputs, so all participants can go and see all these examples and the details, and have the links to go and see in detail also the partners, etc. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Paola. So we've heard, of course, how to create all the elements in order to develop and retain talent in the regions. But of course, a very important aspect is making the regions places where people want to actually live and thrive. So regions that are inclusive, regions where people can get everything they need from a health point of view, and they have access to essential services. So we have together with us Michele. So Michele Calabro from the European Regional and Local Health Authorities Association. So who will present us the recommendation paper on overcoming talent challenges in the healthcare sector. I am coming from a region which is really peripheral and in the border, and we have indeed quite a lot of issues with shortages in the health workforce. So tell us more about the recommendation paper, and tell us more how health can help regions become a place where people can really thrive.
Yes, thanks a lot, and I hope you can hear me. Indeed, really pleasure to be here, and I would also start to thank, of course, you all as Secretariat of the HTP, DG REGIO colleagues, and all the partners that we work with for the development of this recommendation. As you were saying, it's of course very important to look at healthcare, as it's of course one of the most essential services that is shaping quality of life within a given place, and in particular when it comes to regions in Europe. At the same time, of course, it's not only a matter of having access to reliable care as an attraction element, but at the same time, the healthcare healthcare sector itself is a major employer and a key driver of local development. Just to give you some figures, in 2022, about 8.5% of all people employed in the EU work in health occupation. So we are talking about a considerable amount of professionals that needs, of course, to be attracted, retained, and provided with the right solution to be in the job. We started, of course, to analyze the fact that we are facing as healthcare services a number of really severe and important issues. We know about workforce shortages, as you were mentioning, demographic change, increased demand of care, and recent skills requirements related to the very rapid development of healthcare. Having said this, we have worked indeed through the different working groups and the sub working groups of the health group to really bring forward these key messages and recommendations. It starts from the fact that health workforce issues cannot be solved by just addressing recruitment alone or skilling. It really has to be something coherent, and it really tackles a number of different areas of action. And indeed, in the paper, which will be soon able to access, we have identified a number of them to make it work better for health workforce and to create better healthcare systems for people and patients in Europe. The first starting point is that we need, of course, building a systematic understanding of workforce dynamic. It's indeed push and pull factors influencing the decision of healthcare workforce to dive into the health sector, and it's of course fundamental to first of all understand which are these factors, mapping the skills needed, having better data in health workforce systems, information infrastructure, and understanding also monitoring workforce mobility. It's crucial to what we're doing in the HTP. Of course, there's a number of initiatives that are happening already from European to international level, Eurofound, collaboration with WHO, OECD. So a lot is happening, but of course is a starting point. We need to understand the issues that we are facing with to future-proof health workforce system. The second element is not just about numbers in a way, but it's also really trying to look at the need to foster a positive and purpose-driven organizational cultures, not indeed just about how many, but also how well we support health workforce. And we've seen it into different surveys that the working group has conducted with healthcare professionals, where indeed being able to deliver quality of care for health workforce and having a sense of purpose was ranked very important from the healthcare professionals that helped us to develop this recommendation. And we thus need to work more integrating these systems, these working environments at all levels that foster leadership, having more supportive organizational culture, recognition of the professional impact that healthcare has, and interdisciplinary collaboration. This is fundamental for staff retention, but also to deliver high quality patient care, making regions and making places a better environment where to live. Third element, of course, we're talking about strengthening career development and recruitment. It's not just about putting people in the healthcare sector, but it's of course giving them as well a very clear pathway in which they can grow and feel included. So strengthening career development is very important. Flexible career transition, developing tailored recruitment strategies. These are all fundamental elements that we have included in the recommendation paper. These has to go together. Once again, we're promoting work-life balance and quality of life. It's not just about, again, the what, but it's about how you feel in the sector. It has to be motivated, resilient health workforce. Just about a few years ago, you all remember, of course, the COVID facing situation that we all had to deal with, and how important healthcare workforce was recognized in that moment. Of course, we cannot forget about this, even if now we're not in that emergency situation. And quality of life, it's an absolute fundamental element of attractiveness, of course, for the healthcare sector activity. We're talking about recommendation linked to flexible working arrangements, sustainable scheduling practices, family-friendly policies, and the clear boundaries between work and life. Going towards the last bits of the recommendation, we need, of course, actionable plans. So it doesn't have only to be about strategic understanding of what's needed, but really putting into place measures that are also able to identify systemic obstacles affecting workforce satisfaction, optimizing skills mix and task allocation, mapping implementation pathways for improvement. So in a way, the recommendation flow from understanding what the problem is, trying to tackle the different issues that are related to it from the numerical point of view, but also the quality point of view. And I think a final thing from the recommendation, of course, activities like the HTP are fundamental because they bring people together. That's what we did, and that's what, of course, needs to be done even more. There are a lot of programs that, of course, already support piloting, twinning, exchange between those who are trying to activate themselves on the issues that we have identified in recommendations. Regional talking to each other to understand how they can better recruit, how they can provide skilling system that really matches the need. For the healthcare workforce, guidance and training for managers, and really structure peer learning and cooperation between regions. So once again, this is why, of course, as a network of regional authorities ourselves at Eureka, we were very happy to support the work of the HDP. Finally, indeed, of course, as all working groups, I would say also in our side, we looked really much at practices that really showcase how it is possible to activate at regional level really important actions that tackle and that respond to all the matters that I mentioned before. One example that I would like to mention is the integrated system of competencies that was developed at the Cancer Research Institute Dino Amadori in Emilia-Romagna, Italy. That was shared as one of the newest practices that you'll also find soon in the latest release for the collection of practices by the HTP. In this case, it really gave an important response through evidence testing and piloting on how a structured and data-driven approach to workforce competence system can really help organization to align professional development with service needs. The system, in a nutshell, maps first competences required for different roles, assesses professional existing skills, and really implemented targeted training programs. This was selected as one of the practice because it really showcased how, in particular in the health sector, it's very, very important to have a bespoke and tailored approach that really showed, you'll see the figures when you're going to be able to access the practices, how through this really tailored approach to training that was tested in different parts of the institute, participation in competency assessment increased quite dramatically in just few years, reaching basically almost the entirety of planned training activities implemented from when the initiative started. So just wanted to share this example because it also had a very important impact on the satisfaction that patients have. So for healthcare, just to close it, it's always very important to connect what we give, of course, to the health workforce and the impact it have on citizens and patients. And of course, it's done in cancer institutes, but also in other more community level activities like the ENHANCE program, that it's another quite interesting nurse practice that you also are going to be finding in the best practice collection. That was me, but of course happy to stay for any questions that we might have.
Thanks a lot, Michele. We are indeed gathering some questions, and we will be asking you in the Q&A section a bit later on. Thanks a lot. Let's go to another subject, which is Again, in order for people to thrive, health is extremely important, but inclusion is also very, very important. We have together with us Ifigenia Katsi from Cyprus, from the Social Policy and Action Organization, who will present us the toolkit for implementing policies on gender equality, multiculturalism, diversity, and social inclusion in rural areas. So, the toolkit provides quite some important guidance on developing gender equality in inclusion in general, multiculturalism, social inclusion, and place-based equality is super important. All those aspects that allow people, no matter what their religion, cultural, sex, gender orientation is, to be able to thrive in the region. So how can this toolkit help regions achieve this?
Thank you very much. Good morning to everybody. First of all, I would like to say that this is a collaborative work from among the members of the Territorial Working Group. It is a very interesting question, and I would like in a few minutes to respond to that. As you know, a lot of in many rural and diverse regions, a lot of people face a lot of multiple and overlapping forms of inequality linked to geography, disability, access to essential services, in some cases severe lack of access, gender, cultural identity, and so on. In order to achieve actually inclusion and equity, we need to try and design and apply an inclusive policies which actually are grounded. They have to be grounded on a clear vision that treats inclusion as a governance mindset. These effective inclusion policies, they have to emerge from a continuous cycle of understanding, co-creation, implementation, and learning from each other, rooted in local realities and guided by European values. So we've come to the conclusion that there are some actually core principles on how to design and implement successful and effective inclusive policies in these areas, rural and diverse regions, which, as we said, face a lot of multiple, some of these challenges. The first one is very important, and you've already mentioned it. It has to do with territorial diversity. We need to have in mind that all inclusive policies have to begin with one thing, the accurate understanding of who lives in these areas and how all these different target groups actually experience the various social, economic, and spatial dynamics. So, as you already know, Europe's rural areas are highly diverse, which means that when we are designing these policies, we need to apply actually differentiated and place-based approaches. So we need to combine it and different quantitative data with qualitative insights, actually starting from disaggregated data, combined between gender, age, disability, combined with other identity dimensions, alongside some participator methods, such as community dialogues and focus groups, in order to understand the realities of the people. Because usually this is where we lack. The theory is different than the realities of people living in this area. So we need to try and help and tackle this gap. At the same time, it's good to use some spatial intelligence tools, which are digital tools such as GIS, to help identify those invisible inequalities in access to services, mobility, and employment, and so on. Some of them I've already mentioned, while benchmarking some social progress support, evidence-based investment when it delivers the greatest social return. The next principle is related to intersectionality. Intersectionality ensures that equality and equity frameworks reflects the complexity of our lived experience. It must be embedded across the entire policy cycle through impact assessments that actually address intersecting identities gender and diversity responsive budgeting, inclusive procurement, and person-centered policy design. So capacity building for public actors and advisory mechanics are important because they will enable affected groups to go design solutions and go create solutions which are essential to move beyond symbolic inclusion and actually reflect the realities. Another important principle, is actually the participatory and multi-level governance. You know that inclusion depends less on the number of policies adopted than on how decisions are made. So participatory governance transforms citizens from passive beneficiaries into active co-designers and co-creators within their territories. Effective multi-level governance combines bottom-up engagement, horizontal collaboration among local stakeholders like municipalities, civil society organizations, SMEs, and so on, and vertical coordination that actually links local strategies to regional, national, and EU frameworks. So mechanisms such as local equality councils, participatory budgeting, digital engagement platforms will actually enable this population to contribute meaningfully in this process. Genuine participation actually requires removing all these cultural and logistical institutional barriers in order to ensure that all these groups will actually be actively participating in shaping the decisions. Aligning policy and funding is another core principle of this. So actually, inclusive policies will achieve higher impact and effectiveness when they are aligned with mainstream funding and development instruments, including the cohesion policy funds, the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development, National Recovery and Resilience Plans, and other EU programs like the Horizon Europe and Creative Europe. As mentioned before, all these programs they actually play a good role, a strong role in supporting all these skills and competence development. So local actors can integrate these resources into, for example, integrated territorial strategies or local inclusion action plans to ensure that funding streams are coordinated around shared quality objectives. And of course, the active participation of the locals. Building capacity. Building capacity is another strong core principle as inclusive policy design actually relies on these capable institutions. So while many rural administrations actually face some resource constraints, they often possess strong relational knowledge and local trust. So by strengthening this capacity, this will mean that there is a strong investment in the actual people and systems by creating these equality focal points, offering training in diversity, in equity, in quality, as well as participatory planning, promoting intermunicipal cooperation, and actually supporting the whole political leadership and the whole system to achieve the inclusion. Of course, the EU-level platforms, they provide technical assistance, peer learning, visibility for all the local stakeholders, demonstrating this leadership in inclusive governance. Fostering social innovation, another co-principle, it's really important actually, as rural territories are particularly well suited to social innovation due to their strong social ties and manageable scale. So examples like a community-based childcare or elder care models, social enterprises, employing people with disabilities or migrants. These are just some of these examples that can actually be well developed in these areas. These initiatives actually reflect the new European Bauhaus vision of sustainable, inclusive, and attractive transformation rooted in community life. So policies should support such innovation through flexible funding, enabling regulation, and knowledge exchange platforms. And of course, the things we mentioned before. And the last one is the monitoring and evaluation. So this is a core principle as accountability and adaptation are essential to lasting inclusion in order to also achieve sustainability. Monitoring should measure not only the activity, but should actually apply impact assessment and effectiveness tools to see the real change. We need to apply and use all these disaggregated data, outcome-oriented indicators, participatory evaluation, and of course, transparent reporting. Peer learning and exchange across territories will also allow some successful practices to circulate and adapt to different contexts. So in order to conclude, it is worth noting that actually inclusive territorial governance follows in continuous cycles that diagnose co-creation, align with funding, implementation, and learning, and embedding this cycle into local planning ensures actually that equality, equity, and diversity become enduring principles of governance. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share this with you.
Thanks a lot, Iphigenia. And let's go and see another aspect, which is really the access of people to essential services in the regions. We have together with us Vanya Freitas from the Assembly of European Regions, who is representing, of course, the territorial working group, but in this case, actually all the working groups who work together in order to produce this paper, as this paper is actually the culmination of all the work of the working groups. It gathers together and covers, if you want, all the aspects that we have seen. So it identifies, of course, gaps. What are the gaps in access to essential services for people in the regions? And it proposes the best possible solutions, place-based solutions to improve the service availability, quality, and affordability so that people really can access the essential services no matter where they live, and they can thrive in their own region. So the recommendation paper on access to essential services and quality of life really gathers all these elements together. And what I would like to hear is, why is a document presenting the gaps and recommendations on access to essential services so important for talent retention and regional vitality in the regions? And also super important to hear what are the recommendations that you are putting forward, that all the working groups have put forward through this document to enhance the quality of life in the regions. Thanks a lot, Vanya.
Thanks to you, Fanis, and good morning, everyone. And indeed, you are right. This recommendation paper on access to essential services and quality of life is the result of a cooperation work of all the working groups, the thematic working groups under the Harnessing Talent platform, Digital Health, Research and Innovation, and the Territorial that I belong to. And this joint work runs through several months, and it's kind of where the work of all the other working groups and the outputs that were presented converge. So a big thank you word to all the colleagues that contributed, and also to our brilliant facilitators. Answering your question, why is access to essential services so important for talent retention and the vitality of our regions? It's because access to services is about whether a place can really support people's lives. So services like healthcare, education, employment, water, housing, transport, digital connectivity, but also retail or culture that we addressed are not just public goods, as we note in our paper. These are pillars that transform places into attractive communities where people want to live, want to study, want to work, and also have the opportunity to participate in the life of the society and in the economy. And this is what supports also innovation, is what attracts investment and strengthens local economies, supporting the region's prosperity and their competitiveness. So this is the conclusion of our work. And when these essential services are missing or are insufficient, the opposite dynamic also emerges. It affects the quality of life, reduces the economic opportunities, and over time, it creates a self-reinforcing cycle where young people and families live in search of better opportunities. Then local economies weaken, the population ages, and then maintaining the essential services becomes even more difficult and more challenging and also financially. So this dynamic is particularly visible in regions facing demographic but also geographical challenges, demographic decline, geographical isolation. You mentioned, Faris, you experienced that situation, but also regions that have investment capacity limitations. And this is what we found. Also, the cohesion report from 2024 reveals this, that across Europe, access to essential services is uneven. And in urban areas, people benefit from more developed infrastructure and a wider range of services, but in rural and remote regions, they often face longer distance to facilities, also higher service costs, and fewer available options. And these are not just social challenges, these are also economic challenges. Because when the regions lose their talents, lose their human capital, their capacity to grow, to prosper, to compete in global markets, to innovate, is more limited. And then this leads to these long-term development traps that are very difficult to revert. And this is and these challenges is what we identify in our recommendation paper. We identify 5 key challenges that are interlinked, or structural challenges: the geographical isolation and fragmentation, demographic decline and workforce shortages, economic constraints and investment gaps, infrastructure and technological deficits, and governance fragmentation. So if access to services is so important for talent retention and the quality of life, what is that policymakers and all stakeholders actually should do to strengthen these services across European regions? And this is where our key recommendations were developed, was to answer this question. So, and you asked about the recommendations, Fanny. The first is, we identified 4. We put forth 6 recommendations. And the first is on reinforcing governance structures, something that Efigenia just mentioned, but other colleagues in their presentations, is the need to adopt a more comprehensive governance approach, as Efigenia mentioned, vertically and horizontally. So both multi-level, but also multi-actor or multi-stakeholder cooperation. So what we recommend in our paper is that EU and national decision makers should embed the expertise of local and regional authorities to make sure that the policies and investments are designed and are implemented in line with the principles of subsidiarity and partnership. And this includes, for example, involving subnational authorities in territorial impact assessments and in rural proofing processes, as noted in our document, to ensure that the needs of these regions, demographically or geographically challenged, are considered. Also important, as mentioned before, is the coordination across policy sectors, so across different departments in the different governments. Because essential services are so interconnected, they operate as a sort of a system. So we need collaboration between different areas to make sure that we provide coherent responses to the community's needs, and this also helps to facilitate actually the the pooling of the financial, but also human and technological resources. So in this perspective, and is what our paper highlights is the importance of mechanisms like the intermunicipal cooperation, but also shared service arrangements and territorial reforms to reduce the fragmentation that I mentioned before, but also create economies of scale and strengthen the financial sustainability of the service planning and provision. Something Eugenia mentioned is the governance must be multi-actor, so public authorities must involve citizens, civil society, academia, research institutions, and also the private sector when planning and delivering these services in a participatory approach, as mentioned in the presentation before. So they are aligned with community needs. So this is the first recommendation, governance structures. Then the second one is developing integrated service provisions. So in many regions, essential services are still organized in fragmented ways that make the access by citizens complicated and also inefficient. So one solution put forward in our recommendation is the development of multi-service centers, so that can act as local hubs where several services like healthcare, childcare, social services, cultural services are provided in one place. And these centers can reduce travel times and also administrative or information barriers, especially in remote and sparsely populated areas. Then integrated services can also be strengthened with partnerships between service providers. This is another solution we propose with shared infrastructure and coordinated outreach, so they can collaborate, these services, instead of operating in isolation. Another recommendation within this, another solution recommended within this point is the mobile service unit, so more innovative service delivery and hub networks that can organize the services around a central hub. So usually a larger regional center with more specialized facilities that support smaller satellite local services in the surrounding communities. And this allows people to access service locally while being connected with more specialized services when needed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes. I said yes. We're running out of time, but please feel free to.
So, recommendation 3, halfway through. Recommendation 3 is about the place-based approach. It was mentioned before. Is not all regions face the same challenges, and for these reasons, policies and investments must be tailored to the specific characteristics and also the potential and needs of each territory. So this requires good territorial analysis and closer engagement with local communities when designing interventions. Here we mentioned the community-led local development and also the integrated territorial investments as a solution. Then recommendation 4, improve the evidence base. So the data and the evidence base for the policy making. Data on access to essential services is limited and sometimes difficult to compare across regions and member states. We face this challenge when working on this paper, and in many cases, even existing surveys cannot give us information at a local or regional level. So we recommend the EU and the national governments to establish a more systematic framework for collecting and comparing territorial data on service availability and accessibility. Then recommendation 5 is support regulatory environments that enable innovation. So because innovative solutions already exist, colleagues mentioned also in the health sector, for example, digital health, long-term care, or renewable energy communities as identified in our paper, rural mobility as well. We have good practices on these policy areas. But implementation is often slowed down by the administrative procedures by the rigid procurement rules, for example, and also fragmented regulations. So to address this, the paper recommends governments to make it easier to experiment with new approaches and scale up solutions that work. This is 5. Then the final recommendation 6 is target investments and capacity building in regions facing development traps. So this includes strengthening the institutional capacity, improving the administrative systems, supporting the strategic planning and digitalization of the public administrations and the service delivery. Also, the technical assistance and the capacity building programs that help local and regional authorities design and manage investments in a more efficient way, including European funding programs. Then there is also the aspect of the peer learning and the knowledge exchange and cooperation between regions to disseminate successful solutions. So this and here we refer to these development trap missions as with technical assistance facilities for large infrastructure projects and regional capacity hubs to support local and regional authorities working to improve service design and delivery. So these recommendations, they show that improving services, essential services, is not only a matter of funding. It's also about strengthening the governance, the coordination, the innovation, the data, and the place-based approach with increased capacity and in our local and regional authorities across all Europe. And I think in a nutshell, these are the main recommendations captured in our paper.
Thanks a lot, Vanya. We have actually quite a few questions that have been received via WooClub. I will pass the floor to my colleague Niklas, who will address them to the different speakers from which we heard today. So Niklas, please.
Thank you very much, Fanis. Yes, and as you said, we have received quite a number of questions. I think some of them have been answered throughout the presentations, but we will pick up on a selection of the questions received now. I think quite interestingly, there were a number of questions with regard to how and when can stakeholders benefit from the platform and the results. Here, to be very clear, all the outputs that were presented today will be published within the next couple of days. So if you visit the platform next week, you will see all the elements that were discussed today. And maybe here a small reminder, going beyond what has been produced by the working groups directly, you will also find a knowledge hub and a knowledge repository on the page where you have more than 500 resources when it comes to policy documents, data, insights, good practices, and academic articles, all meant to be elaborated, to be used, and to support you in your efforts of better harnessing talent. And a question related to this, should SMEs register for the practical guide support? I think this one is linked to the output Overcoming SME Challenges in Regions in a Talent Development Trap, a practical guide that was earlier presented by Jakob. And here you do not have to register, but again, I would also invite you next week to go on the platform, look out for this practical guide and explore the different pathways that are described here and see, what the different recommendations are and learn about how you could potentially apply them in practice in your own region. With this, Fanis, there is a question that I believe you will be able to answer. We have a question on when the self-assessment tool that was presented will be launched and will be accessible by the users.
Thanks a lot. So yes, the tool is ready. It has already been piloted by 5 different regions in Portugal, Greece, Italy, Croatia, and in Poland. We are making the last tweaks, so we hope that by the end of next week, It will be available for everybody, but before that already you will have the possibility, as you said, Nicholas, in the next couple of days, you will get the document version, which explains, has all the questions, of course, of the tool, explains how how the tool works and how someone can use it, all the logic behind it, with several examples for its use. So you can already, in the next couple of days, see all about it, and by the end of next week, you will be able also to visit it online and use it. So quick answer is, as of the next couple of days, you can already see how it works and actually use it by the end of next week.
Thank you very much, Fannis. And another interesting question, and here I would like to engage some of our speakers from earlier, probably directed towards Jakob Frier, but maybe also with some support from Miriam or Francesco and Eleonora. When the guide was presented, the practical guide, a question came up basically saying, and I try to reformulate a little bit, many SMEs that are located within regions that are currently in a talent development trap aren't necessarily dependent on the region itself. They have the opportunity to set up, for example, satellite offices in other places, which is quite interesting for them and also works well when it comes to talent attraction, because they then attract the talent in a different place for their, I would say, purposes. But that doesn't necessarily benefit the ecosystem in the region where they are originally from. So there's a question, are there any place-based attraction elements that you have found or that you have identified that could be useful in these type of situations? And maybe how could those kind of SMEs be encouraged to also invest additionally in talent attraction locally rather than doing it remotely via satellite offices in more, I would say, for example, urban areas? I don't know, Jakob, is that something that you would want to give it a try, or maybe also with the support of Miriam or the other colleagues from the R&I working group?
Yes. It's not something we have, I believe, looked at specifically in the paper itself, but I would believe that I would rather implore if someone else is aware of such programs. I believe that there would definitely be some, but I'm not concretely aware of.
I'll try and help Jakob.
Thank you.
Yes. So we address this topic many times, actually, because the thing is that people is actually, talents are willing to move, not just because of the job opportunities or research opportunities that they have, but especially for the environment they will find. So if in these areas, even when they are, very far from the big city center, very equipped city centers, etc., there will be many opportunities, because the thing is that they are looking for places where they can actually thrive. So if there's all the if there's an international networking like group, if there are the services, even small, even very peculiar and dedicated, if there are easy way to access houses, to access general services also for children, because they don't come alone in the majority, of the times. So these are the elements that could bring people stay also in person, so not working remotely, but in person in areas that are not the big capitals, the big towns that have all the services. So considering them persons and not just workers, high-skilled workers, and giving them the again, services, but not just that, but also occasions and opportunities to melt with local people in new ways and different ways, and engage them also locally will let these people come and stay.
Thank you very much, both. I think this is a great connection also to the last output that was presented, because I believe if the right conditions are granted, if the infrastructure is there, if access to services is available, then there is maybe not even a need for companies to go to open up offices in other places, because the region itself creates a very attractive environment so that people would want to stay or would want to come. I think with this, also looking at the time, we close the Q&A session, and we would hand over to François Gallagher from DG REGIO for the closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. I hope everybody hears me well. Thank you as well to Fanourios for animating so efficiently the webinar in such a way that we are almost on time with the timings that was scheduled. Warm thanks to our speakers and the working group members for today's presentations and the excellent collaborations over the last 2 years and a half. Thanks as well to all of you connected this morning. We do hope that this webinar met your expectations, that it triggered your appetite to deep dive into the working group final outputs. These are made available online, which will happen very soon, as you heard. I hope you will bring with you also from today's discussions already a few takeaways, an indication on those outputs that will be most immediately useful for your own work, depending on your area of interest or of expertise, and distinguishing these from those that you would rather recommend to other departments of your organizations or your partners and networks. As Kadri was recalling in our opening speech, we strongly believe in the richness and robustness of the materials that has been put together, the far-ranging scope of policy areas investigated, and forms of knowledge compiled within a comprehensive framework that both allows readers to apply some kind of cherry picking, if I can put it like this, and that's important in view of the volume of information which has been produced, while still keeping in mind at the same time the complexity and multidimensional nature of challenges to be solved to make European regions more attractive and efficient in nurturing their talents. As we also concluded from the first Talent Booster Mechanisms webinar we ran 2 weeks ago, if you missed it, the recording is available on the Harnessing Talent platform. It was about presenting the learnings of technical assistance pilots that were developed in a number of regions in or at risk of facing a talent development trap, organized together with representatives from the regions, and the conclusions from this webinar coincide with those from today's one, that there is clearly nothing like a one-fits-all approach to harness talent in European regions, but still a multitude of options to be tested and solutions that have proved to work in certain places, worth considering, if not to fully replicate, at least to adapt to other contexts as part of the policy mix of renewed the place-based territorial development strategies to retrain and attract talent. This is precisely what is on the offer with a set of working group outputs that were presented as an incentive to take actions from short to longer term at all levels of governments to ensure that we succeed collectively in adapting to demographic megatrends that are reshaping the European Union, while ensuring every individual the means to accomplish themselves wherever they decide to work and live. As we heard today, the way forward have to do with region self-awareness and readiness to reap the benefits of the digital transition, to compensate for shrinkage of workforces and the cost of physical distance. It is about stimulating local innovation ecosystems and partnerships through skills development and knowledge valorization, supporting SMEs as the backbone of local economies and communities, better addressing medical deserts through modernized service models to improve working conditions and professional pathways in the healthcare sector, It is about promoting gender equality, multiculturalism, and social diversity, not only as core EU values, but also as part of the toolkit to keep rural areas as vibrant and attractive places. And that does not least, as we heard from Vanya, to guarantee the access to a wide range of other essential services, from education to transport, housing to culture, to ensure quality of life all across the Union. So again, from this perspective, the spectrum of issues which have been unpacked, debated, turned into practical guidance by the working groups is very impressive and speaks to many categories of professionals and policymakers. This is why we very much count on all of you connected today or that will watch the recording later to help us to disseminate the final outputs on there available and to help us achieving the reach out that these deserve. From the Commission side, of course, we will do our share, and I take the opportunity there to thank again all colleagues from other DGs that were involved, DG Agri, DG Employment, DG EAC, DG Connect, and DG LTDs, to mention only those that were more actively involved, for their unwavering support throughout the production process and the very encouraging messages that we also received when it comes to suggestions to improve the reach out and awareness about the final results. We also take on board, of course, some of the formulated recommendations from the working group members, especially those for the longer term, as part of the talent booster mechanisms learning for the future of cohesion policy and the right to stay as an emerging guiding priority. So as you will have probably understood, working group activities officially closed with this webinar, which is perhaps the sad side of things, but the conversation, of course, continues. So if you want to know more about the talent booster mechanisms, meet the working group members and the wider community of practitioners engaged with us in the last 3 years, please come and join the third talent booster mechanisms high-level event that will take place in Brussels on the 28th of May to learn about the achievements of the initiative and how it resonates in the context of open discussions on the next multi-annual financial frameworks. Registrations will open very soon, and we hope to see you there. And if you allow me to end up with a more personal note and message, as you could hear, there were many people involved in the working group activities that did not spare their efforts to achieve the results that were presented to you today. And I believe it would be unfair not to pay tribute also to colleagues from DG REGIO's units, cities, communities, and people that contributed and participated to this adventure from the TBM core team and beyond. Agnieszka, of course, Edita, Andrea, Diletta, Gabriel, Miguel. I could quote many other colleagues, and sorry for those that I will not have mentioned right now, but thanks again to help making all this happen. So this will be all from me now. Thanks again to our speakers for their availability and to all of you for your attention and interest. Bye-bye.